Snow potentially on the way for the first time this season. I'll break down where it could move in and when.
We are talking about a significant step in the right direction.
Mayor Scott doubling down on his crime reduction plan. With the city seeing more than 300 homicides for an 8th straight year, Fox 45 News examines if it's actually working, as city leaders are set to get raises.
Everybody in any line of work every year typically gets cost of living increases.
Why should their pay go up and ours don't, when we're the ones that pay them?
Fox 45 News makes residents' voices heard and questions if they deserve it.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Mayor Scott is expanding the city's Group Violence Reduction Strategy, or GVRS.
Yeah, the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement has been piloting that program in the Western District since January.
The program will expand into the Southwestern and Central Police Districts in the first quarter of 2023. Those are outlined in red, before moving into the Eastern District and eventually the entire city by mid-2024.
As the city gets ready to expand GVRS, some are questioning how effective it really is.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost pressed city leaders on the data driving the expansion.
The mayor and police commissioner say that crime in the Western District isn't simply moving. They say it's being stopped. So we demanded answers from these leaders about if that's true, why the city continues to see 300 homicides for the 8th year in a row.
Baltimore City continues to see bloodshed. In the Western District, the Group Violence Reduction Strategy, or GVRS, was launched again as a pilot program, the third go-around in Baltimore City.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for being here.
Now, leaders say this time is different.
I am confident the strategy is working, and I am very optimistic that expanding to the Southwestern District and eventually across the city is going to prove fruitful.
According to BPD's data, there have been 32 homicides in the Western Police District so far in 2022, and 70 other people have been shot. Now, the city will expand the GVRS into the Southwestern District in the beginning of next year, and then the Central District. Police Commissioner Michael Harrison says the Western District has seen a 33% reduction in gun violence in the last year.
It is important to note a recent study from University of Pennsylvania's Crime and Justice Policy Lab found no evidence of displacement when analyzing whether the focus population moved from the Western District to adjacent districts.
If crime displacement isn't happening, what is happening?
You can see that, as you heard from Director Jackson, that's simply not the case. But also, just so that you be mindful and that we're telling the full truth, while none of us up here are celebrating that violence is gone in Baltimore, we are talking about a significant step in the right direction of seeing violence be reduced at this level in our most violent district, but also that even as we stand here today, that homicides and shootings, while we are over 300, are down from last year as well, right? So that's the reality.
The city has seen 3 fewer lives cut short in 2022 compared to the same time last year. Shante Jackson, the director of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, says there will be benchmarks to ensure the program is working, and those benchmarks will revolve around intelligence meetings. Mayor Scott, at first, cutting us off from asking more questions about transparency.
So that all of Baltimore has access to it on our website and don't have to just find out what those statistics look like on the news.
Emily?
I just had one more question.
Emily?
I thought we got 3.
You got 2. Emily? Come on, Emily.
I was told we got 3 questions. I just wanted to
Emily?
ask. The expansion announcement comes with maps and charts showing why the city says GVRS is working. But the program is one of several pieces of the mayor's community violence intervention ecosystem. Another part is Safe Streets. And eventually, Mayor Scott let us ask our third question.
When can we expect to see the same level of transparency about what's happening in the data that you talk about so much that's driving a lot of this for the other CVI programs that are operational in the city?
So I think that we tell you guys all the time that what our Safe Streets folks do, but I think it's important to note, and I'll let Director Jackson expand upon that when you're talking about credible messaging work, you have to be very particular about what you say publicly.
Jackson noting an academic study has been done for Safe Streets by Hopkins.
Will that include the number of mediations, the number of employees, and the community-based organizations, how they structure all of that? Those are all questions we've been trying to get answered, and we haven't been able to.
Thank you. Jackson not answering the question, Mayor Scott responding instead.
So, Mackenzie, I think that we have been sharing a number of mediations consistently.
But through our investigation into Safe Streets stretching more than a year, that simply isn't true. Meanwhile, the city putting more faith in the group violence reduction strategy, a program the city has tried twice before.
The city says the goal is to have GVRS expanded throughout all of Baltimore by the middle of 2024. Outside City Hall, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
City council members had the chance to get those answers about the Safe Streets program during an investigative hearing back in October. Now, that meeting ended abruptly after some exchanges between committee chair Mark Conway and Director Shante Jackson about why the city council wasn't told of changes to Safe Streets leadership. Another hearing has not been scheduled so far.
And this afternoon's news conference was far from the first time we've seen Mayor Scott cut off one of our reporters' questions.
Does that mean that your 5-year plan will be tweaked at all?
Thank you, Mackenzie.
All right, thanks.
I think, Mackenzie, I'll just cut you off and just start talking. So,
if you have a process, why was it leaked to WBAL?
See you later.
Well, despite that, Fox 45 News will continue to seek answers from city leaders. Our commitment to you is to ask the tough questions and hold elected leaders accountable for the problems facing Baltimore City.
Fox 45 News demands answers about raises coming to city leaders. The news comes just days after the mayor vetoed the city council's plan to reduce the amount of time they need to serve to earn a lifetime pension for part-time work. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor questioned the mayor about the raises. She joins us live now with his response and the reaction to it. Rebecca?
Yeah, Kai, these raises, they're approved quietly and without any input from voters. It's causing some to question if our city leaders have truly earned them. At the start of next year, some of City Hall's top earners scheduled for yet another pay raise. Salary bump sparked by city law that's been on the books since 2007. The law says if at least one city union or employee group receives a pay increase, all elected officials are entitled to a 2.5% raise. Because the union representing salaried city employees got a raise this summer, now salaries across the board will be adjusted. Among those benefiting, the city council president, comptroller, all 14 city council members, and Mayor Brandon Scott. He will now make more than $200,000 a year.
His salary is completely out of whack when you look at the size of the city, you look at the problems in the city. Baltimore City is a city that has a lot of problems, so getting a raise doesn't make any sense.
David Williams with the Taxpayers Protection Alliance is among those taking issue with the widespread raises. He believes a boost in pay should be performance-based, not automatic.
What needs to happen is that they should have to vote on this every year or every time there is a pay increase, so the voters know exactly who's voting for the pay increase and who isn't voting for it. That would provide more transparency and probably fewer pay raises.
However, the mayor is defending the practice, saying the 2.5% increase helps keep up with inflation.
Despite this being a news story every year, it's really not really a news story because everybody in any line of work every year typically gets cost of living increases, and this is basically what this amounts to.
But not all of his constituents agree.
The cost of living goes up, but our pay don't go up. So why should their pay go up and ours don't? When we're the ones that pay them.
Baltimore City residents we spoke with say it's not always commonplace for them to earn annual pay raises. The mayor also ran on a promise to curb crime, a promise that won him votes but has yet to be realized. For the 8th straight year in a row, the city surpassing 300 homicides. And as crime climbs, Baltimore's population continues to fall, leaving some to question. Does Mayor Scott deserve more than $200,000 a year?
He needs to, put a little more effort there to earn, to own up to those earnings.
The city need that $200,000 just for the streets or the schools.
This just underlies the frustration that people have with elected officials because they get automatic pay raises, yet there's no accountability for it.
Now, since 2007, when this law was passed, the mayor's salary has jumped nearly $80,000. Reporting live in Baltimore, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. We'd like to hear from you. Do you think city leaders deserve a raise? So far, 99% of those who voted say no. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
An update now to the legal battle over the release of a Catholic clergy abuse report. The report details the accusations of child sexual abuse in the Archdiocese of Baltimore. Fox 45's Jeff Abel joins us live with a closer look at why the rest of this case is going to take place behind closed doors. Jeff?
Well, you know, suddenly the release of this long-awaited report has grown a whole lot tighter and a whole lot quieter. Outside this country's oldest cathedral 3 weeks ago,
we've been hurt in a way that is very hard to talk about.
Those fighting to expose abuse in the Catholic Church were turning up the volume, demanding that the Attorney General's investigation into predator priest in Baltimore be made public.
It's thousands of children in the Archdiocese of Baltimore have been abused.
It is time for Catholics sitting in church pews, like I once was, to stand up and demand accountability from their leaders.
But now, 3 weeks later, their voices have been silenced. A judge has barred anyone connected to the case to share information about the case, ordering that all proceedings, filings, and communications regarding this matter are to be confidential. He also ordered that any future filings are to be delivered to the judge's chambers and not to the circuit court clerk. Judge Anthony Vittoria, who ordered the restrictions, is, according to his state bio, a member of the Catholic community of South Baltimore since 1997.
The Archdiocese does not and will not oppose the report's release.
The Archdiocese has long insisted it supports the release of the 400-page investigation, but with conditions, insisting it failed to allow some people mentioned in the report a chance to respond, and the Church is now paying the legal fees to provide them that chance.
Now they deserve to be heard by the court, and we will pay their legal fees to ensure that they are heard.
I believe they're looking closer all along at their pocketbook than at the vulnerable, innocent kids.
The court order has made critics even more skeptical and more determined to ensure the public learns the truth about the Church.
Now is the time to hold the Church finally accountable for the pain and suffering that they have caused countless children and adolescents.
Well, tomorrow, the attorneys representing the critics of the Church we're told to be filing a brief demanding that this report be released. And we're told someone will be available to talk about it. We're live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. Fox 45 News will continue to follow this developing story. You can stay updated both on air and on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
All right, as you saw there on our website, there is a story there about some potential snowfall that could be coming this weekend, and we're going to get into that in just a couple of minutes. But first, I want to talk about some rain showers. It's really more so drizzle that's from Gaithersburg up to Westminster, just north and west of Cockeysville right now. Everybody stands a chance of some drizzle overnight. Visibilities are dropping down as the rain kind of lessens a bit, but unfortunately with the drizzle, you're going to have those visibility issues breaking down here into the overnight hours, down to near zero visibility, especially north and west of Baltimore by the time you're waking up tomorrow morning. But I'm going to be tracking the potential of some snow into the weekend. That's up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Next on Fox 45 News at 10, House Republicans poised to call Twitter executives under oath following new revelations in the suppression of Hunter Biden and other political stories leading up to 2020. The questions they want answered. Plus, Governor Hogan's TikTok ban, why he's telling every state employee to delete the app. And at 10:30, children struggled to learn during the pandemic, but new test results show Maryland students fared worse than others. The efforts to help students here catch up.
Let's take a look right now at the Fox box. On the top left, many companies hiring private security to combat rising crime across the country. We've seen examples of it in Baltimore. A gas station in Philadelphia is one of the latest to do so.
Top right, a new lawsuit filed in New York accusing comedian Bill Cosby of sexually assaulting 5 women. The 85-year-old was released from prison more than a year ago after his sexual assault conviction was overturned in Pennsylvania.
On the bottom left, the suspect accused of shooting and killing 5 people and hurting 17 others at a Colorado LGBTQ-friendly nightclub has been formally charged with hate crimes and murder. The suspect has not entered a plea about the shooting.
Bottom right, a state court judge halted Oregon's ban on high-capacity gun magazines just hours after a federal judge ruled the measure could go into effect this week. The measure narrowly passed in the midterms. And new tonight, despite family infighting, a lawsuit over control of the Baltimore Orioles, and one Angelos family member claiming the others could move the team, the Orioles are not going anywhere. MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred told members of the Baseball Writers Association, as long as he's in charge, count on the Birds staying in Baltimore. The Angelos family recently extended the lease at Camden Yards after the state announced more than $1 billion in Maryland Stadium Authority funding.
Former President Donald Trump's company is convicted of tax fraud. A criminal court jury in New York finds the Trump Organization guilty of all charges in a 15-year tax fraud scheme. Prosecutors alleged the company helped top executives cheat on their taxes by including off-the-books perks like free apartments and luxury cars. New York prosecutors spent 3 years investigating Trump and his businesses. The Trump Organization could be fined up to $1.6 million. It would be a light fine for the company and likely won't jeopardize its future. Donald Trump calls the investigation a witch hunt.
Republican lawmakers are calling for Twitter executives to testify before Congress. As national correspondent Kayla Gaskins reports, it follows Elon Musk's release of communications surrounding Hunter Biden's laptop.
The fallout of the Twitter files hitting Washington.
More and more we do see big media, big government, big tech having to acknowledge that this wasn't Russian disinformation.
Newly released company conversations show the social media giant temporarily hushed a negative story about the Biden family ahead of the 2020 election. Employees at the time worried the information came from hackers, despite lacking evidence. Republicans aiming at answers.
We should never allow it to happen in our country again, where there's a news story that's very relevant to an election and we allow the wagons to be circled and the American people to be shielded from that content.
The White House brushing off the issue.
Twitter was so haphazardly pushed this distraction. That is a full of old news, if you think about it.
Cornell law professor William Jacobson arguing the matter deserves attention.
I think they're still trying to kill the story, that this is a huge story. This is not a story about a laptop. It's the Biden family corruption story. It's really a story of Joe Biden selling his office as vice president and selling access to him when he was, a potential candidate for the presidency.
Even if mainstream media outlets don't appear to be granting much coverage.
I find it very discouraging and disappointing that mainstream media outlets are not willing to acknowledge, even after the fact, that there was real news in October of 2020 about that laptop, but also the way that that laptop story was stifled is news now. Mainstream media outlets are too interested in kind of shaping the political sphere rather than to reporting honestly.
Republican lawmakers have questions about the FBI's role in suppressing the story, questions they hope a full investigation will answer. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
New tonight, Governor Larry Hogan bans the use of TikTok on state government devices. The emergency directive from the governor bans multiple Chinese and Russian platforms. It includes shopping sites like Alibaba. That's the Chinese equivalent of Amazon. Also banned social media apps like TikTok and WeChat. Now, some GOP leaders across the country are making similar calls. In South Carolina and South Dakota, their governors banned the app. Wisconsin's Republican representatives in Congress are also asking the state's Democratic governor to ban TikTok as well. They're calling the video sharing app a national security threat.
Well, Facebook's parent company Meta is threatening to remove all news content from its platform. Congress is weighing a bill that would open the door for news outlets to request compensation from big tech companies that distribute their content. They say it would help the struggling local news industry and prevent social media from becoming America's de facto local newspaper. A Meta spokesperson argues big tech companies help direct traffic to the news outlets, not the other way around.
Breaking news right now out of Baltimore County. Police are on the scene of a shooting in Owings Mills. Here's what we know. Police say one man was shot along Q Court and taken to the hospital. Now, Fox 45 News will continue to follow this story. We'll bring you any new information as it becomes available.
New questions are coming up about the shooting death of a pregnant teenager. What the police commissioner is saying about the possibility of a domestic incident.
We're seeing robberies at gun stores across Maryland. The latest attempted robbery and how you can help bring suspects to justice.
And although it's warmer and rainy for a good portion of the rest of the week, things change for the weekend. Take a look at our latest computer models. Our GFS American Future Scan says, yes, some of that blue starts moving toward Maryland into early Saturday. And this was the warmer solution of our computer models. Also, that European computer model, that's a reliable one, saying some snow city north and west. I'll let you know how much could fall into your weekend plans in my Weather Authority forecast.
New questions are emerging after neighbors say they heard arguing before a pregnant 19-year-old was shot and killed in Northeast Baltimore this weekend. Fox 45 News asked Police Commissioner Michael Harrison about it today.
Was this domestic related? Do you know who you're looking for?
Well, investigators are working to find the answers to all of those questions as we speak. I don't want to say anything that would compromise the case and that would mess this up once it gets to court.
Well, police say 19-year-old Jamira Burrell was shot multiple times Sunday morning. The department has not released any suspect information. Funeral arrangements have not been posted.
Jumeirah is one of several teenagers killed in the city this year. Bernard Mushka Thomas was killed on the first day of the year, along with 16-year-old Desmond Canada. In May, 16-year-old Jay Brunson was shot and killed during an after-party for his junior prom. In September, 17-year-old Jeremiah Brogdon was shot and killed during dismissal at Mervo High School. And just last month, 13-year-old Kelsey Washington was shot along East Fayette Street. She died a week later.
More children and teenagers have been killed in Baltimore City this year than in any of the past 5 years. Many times, teens are the ones committing crimes as well. One law enforcement expert says the city has to do more to support children and families.
What our politicians have to do is say that families are important, and we're going to start programs that promote marriage, that promote fathers, that promote that type of stability.
You can find more on the city's issue with teen violence on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Maryland education leaders are addressing the latest state report card showing disappointing test scores, how they plan to reverse the trend.
More people taking on multiple jobs. We take a deeper look at what's behind this and the advice experts have for employers and people looking for work.
We're following three big stories at 10:30.
Record high inflation is changing the way many people live their lives. The new steps some are taking to make ends meet.
Maryland State Police are asking for your help to find these suspects accused of robbing gun stores around the state. What you need to know.
And we have work to do. That's the message from Maryland Superintendent of Schools today, reacting to some sobering data about the pandemic's impact on learning loss.
And we begin there with the crisis in the classroom. This year's National Assessment of Educational Progress scores reveal Maryland students may have been hit harder than many of their peers across the country.
Fox 45's Amy Simpson has reaction from school leaders.
This nationwide data was first released at the end of October, but Maryland Superintendent of Schools spoke publicly about those results today. He says this data in particular shows Maryland on a downward trend. It's called the National Assessment of Educational Progress, more commonly known as the nation's report card, a nationwide test given to a few 100,000 4th and 8th graders to assess progress and proficiency in both reading and math. The test was proctored earlier this year for the first time since 2019. A year before the pandemic upended in-person learning. And across the country this year, average student test scores declined by several points in both subjects. But Maryland's test scores particularly startling.
Most states saw decreases, I should point out, as Maryland did, but Maryland's decreases are some of the larger ones in the country.
Data shows a majority of Maryland's 4th and 8th graders are not proficient in math or reading. Of those tested this year, 4th graders dropped 10 points in math and 7 points in reading. Meanwhile, Maryland's 8th graders dropped 11 points in math and 5 points in reading.
Regardless, we have a lot of work to do when we look at how our students are faring against other student groups across the country.
And at Baltimore City schools, one of the 26 largest districts analyzed nationwide. Baltimore's 4th and 8th grade students only performing better than one city, Detroit, in both subjects. In math, Baltimore's 4th graders on average testing 26 points lower than their peers in other large cities. And Baltimore's 8th graders testing an average of 21 points lower than their peers in math.
When you look at the NAEP, though, we are on a downward trend. So our students are not performing at the pace other states are. So we have a lot of work to do to raise our game.
The Maryland Board of Ed today digesting the data, looking to the future and looming investments in education to reverse this downward trend.
It's good to get the data. It is good that we deal with the actual data, and then no matter what the data look like, and then put together plans to move forward based on what is.
And other data shared today with the State Board of Education showed that just 42% of Maryland students showed readiness for kindergarten this year. That is a 2% rise from data last year, though still lagging behind kindergarten readiness before the pandemic. Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
While Baltimore City student test scores have dropped to some of the lowest in the country, City School CEO Dr. Sanya Santelisa's salary is going up. Now, her base salary is a little more than $333,000 a year. She's the highest paid school leader in the state. Her contract includes several perks, including a car allowance, 59 paid days off that she can cash out if she doesn't use them, and deferred compensation toward retirement in addition to her state pension. Given those perks, Dr. Santelisa's collects a total of nearly $445,000 a year. Fox 45's Project Baltimore has done extensive reporting on the failures within some Baltimore City public schools. You can find all of their stories on our website, foxbaltimore.com/Project Baltimore.
We're following some breaking news. Democratic incumbent Senator Raphael Warnock has won re-election in Georgia with a less than 1 percentage point lead. The Associated Press has just called the race for Warnock. He defeated Republican Herschel Walker in the runoff election in Georgia. That means Democrats will hold a 51-49 majority in the U.S. Senate. The Georgia Secretary of State says this runoff was more low-key than 2021's because control of the Senate was not at stake.
So far, nothing is disrupting voting. This is a calmer environment. This is a more methodical environment. We feel good about where we are. The counters are doing a great job.
In November, Warnock led Walker, just not by enough to avoid the runoff. This time, nearly 2 million people turned out for early and mail-in voting. In a city in crisis, Baltimore is working on its fiscal year 2024 budget. The mayor is holding a series of virtual town halls to keep the public informed on the budget planning process. The first of those town halls was tonight.
But we know the best decisions that are the decisions that are informed by the lived experiences, the needs, the desires of our community and our residents. However, budgets can only reflect our priorities if we intentionally listen to you, the residents, about what those priorities should be.
There will be 3 more town halls, one on the 14th. The others will be January 11th and 18th.
Baltimore City Police say a security guard has been arrested and charged with murder in the shooting death of a man, he says, threw a brick at him. Police arrested 39-year-old Keith Lucky today in connection with the shooting a month ago. At the time, police say Lucky told officers the man, Kevin Guerrero, a local soccer coach, threw a brick at him, causing him to discharge his weapon, hitting the victim. Now, the arrest came after detectives consulted with the state's attorney's office and decided the facts in the case warranted an arrest.
Word tonight of a plan that may save the historic Patterson Bowling Center. News that the nearly 100-year-old Duckpin Bowling Alley is closing down for redevelopment sparked some community blowback. Now developers are considering keeping 1 floor, 6 lanes, while moving forward with its building plan. City Council member Zeke Cohen also tweeted tonight saying he wants to help broker a deal, writing, "It's about how we grow as a city without tearing down the quirky small businesses that make us great." And new tonight, the FAA is looking into a drone sighting by pilots landing at BWI on Sunday. The FAA saying the crew aboard a Spirit Airlines flight arriving from Atlanta just before 2:30 radioed that the drone was about 300 feet below them, just 6 miles from the runway. And that other pilots now say they saw a drone just south of the airport. Anne Arundel County Police have been notified as the FAA continues its investigation.
The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives is working with law enforcement in Anne Arundel County and Montgomery County to find those responsible for a string of gun store robberies. Officers looking for the people in these pictures taken at Atlantic Guns in Rockville. Over a 9-day period, there were 5 separate burglaries at stores across Anne Arundel County and also Montgomery County. The ATF is still working to determine if they're connected, though all of them happened at midnight and around 4 in the morning. The release from the ATF comes after a firearms store in Glen Burnie was nearly burglarized. Over a week ago, police say they arrested a 14 and 16-year-old after a van was plowed into the building and they were seen taking guns from a display. Now, that van was connected to a similar burglary in Pasadena. Anyone with information should contact the ATF, Anne Arundel County Police, or Montgomery County Police.
Baltimore County has a new police chief for now. The department tweeting out this photo of interim chief Dennis Delp being sworn in today. Delp is replacing Melissa Hyatt, who left the position at the start of the month when her contract was not renewed. In the year leading up to Hyatt's departure, Baltimore County saw a record 55 homicides, and the police union held a vote of no confidence in her leadership.
Yeah, the bell ends the bloodletting. Stocks fell for a 4th straight day. The Dow drops 350 points. The S&P lost 57. The Nasdaq shed 225. With today's losses, the S&P is already down more than 3% this week. Investigators are expecting the Fed to gradually slow rates, but they fear the slower pace might not be enough to avoid a recession.
And if you're thinking of getting a second job, you are not alone. Dee Dee Gatton takes a look at new numbers showing a jump in the number of people with multiple jobs.
The number of people holding multiple jobs jumped 165,000 in November, according to new federal labor numbers. Experts tell me the current state of the economy is forcing many to make tough choices.
Kind of anxious about the inflation and prices rising and a drop in income.
In a nutshell, it's how many people are feeling. With inflation the highest it's been in decades, people nationwide are reevaluating their finances. In a new Neighbor.com survey, 2 out of 3 Americans say they are either working or plan to pick up a side gig just to keep up.
More often than not, when we hear people saying we want a second job or we need a second job, it's to cover basic household expenses.
Franchise owner of staffing agency Pride Staff, Matt Becker, says he sees people taking on more jobs, dipping into savings and relying on credit cards, whatever they have to do to make ends meet.
It's all about the money. I mean, at the end of the day, inflation is killing people metaphorically because the raises they're getting is not historically been keeping up with inflation this year.
In November, hourly earnings jumped 0.6%, and wages matter. A ResumeBuilder.com survey found about 1 in 20 workers would quit if they learn their coworkers make more money.
It's key for the employee to really be cognizant of where they're playing so that they've got the right salary expectations for that particular role. On the employer side, they have to become more flexible.
For a sense of how widespread this is, Becker tells me from high school grads to retirees, they are all looking for jobs right now. Reporting for the National Desk, I'm Dee Dee Gatton.
Well, trending now, a very special announcement from the Maryland Zoo.
That's right. It's revealing the name of a newly hatched penguin chick, Ravioli.
That's right. Voters got to choose between 3 Italian food-themed names for this little guy. The options were mozzarella, limoncello, or ravioli.
And I guess fish wasn't an option there. It was a tight competition, but Ravioli came out on top. The baby penguins are still too little to be on display, but you'll be able to see them in the next few months.
That's right. We know what they like to eat, and it's not spaghetti.
It's not spaghetti.
It's not ravioli. A newly released transcript of Dr. Anthony Fauci's recent testimony is raising questions about how the Biden administration worked with big tech to control COVID misinformation. The concern some are bringing up now.
And heading out to the bus stop in the morning, it looks like some fog and clouds and drizzle to begin. Leave some extra time for travels. Could be a little messy. Warming to the 60s in the afternoon, but that's not going to last long. I'll let you know when snow could be in the forecast in a couple of minutes.
Well, it was a gloomy and rainy day in our area. The Chevy Storm Tracker caught this video of the wet roads tonight. And there's a chance the rain could turn into snow in the next few days. Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers has the latest. Let's just hope it's snowflakes and not any buildup.
Yeah, not yet. We still have a few days, so there's still some uncertainty here as to even if it's going to happen. But the chances are growing a little bit day by day as some of the computer models gradually come into, at least for now, better agreement. So you can hear some of the hesitation here, but something to keep your eyes on Friday night into Saturday. I know I certainly will be doing just that. Some occasional rain, drizzle from Cockeysville all the way down to Columbia, Laurel. You see some showers also over the southern Delmarva. We go on the wider view and we put this radar in motion. You can see that there's a bit of a break. There's some more rain south, but that break, unfortunately for us, it's going to lead to drizzle. And then the drizzle is going to keep the atmosphere moist. The rain is not going to rain the moisture out, and it will turn to fog. So for now, the visibilities are about 3 to 7 miles, but they're going to probably drop to near zero in spots later on tonight into early tomorrow morning. Temperatures, oh man, 15 to 30 degrees warmer than the 30s we had last night before all this moved in. Some occasional light rain, light drizzle. That warmer trend, that's going to stay. The unsettled trend, unfortunately, will too. Notice the rain down to the south and west. Some of that impacting us potentially as we head into tomorrow morning's commute. Then, after that rain moves away, and tomorrow is a somewhat drier day. I think morning rain primarily. Thursday's drier too, but then look, this is the beginnings of the next weather maker developing over portions of the Mississippi Valley. Warm weather for us, I think, still on Thursday, but that cold air looking like the computer model saying, yes, it may now start getting involved a bit. The GFS and European computer models were not agreeing last night, but they're coming a little bit closer now to a colder solution. See that blue just north of Baltimore? And actually, in the case of the European, it's in Baltimore. That can mean some snow mixing in there Friday night into Saturday morning. A coating well north in the best case scenario. And in the worst case scenario, even here in the city, it could be an inch or two. Maybe north and west, it could be 3 inches of snow. So, again, it's something to watch here as we head into Friday, should these computer models stay the same as they're looking right now. Occasional rain and drizzle overnight into early tomorrow morning. And then for tomorrow, boy, really does warm up. Highs getting close to 60. Thursday, a drier day. Friday, some showers late. That's that next weather maker Friday night into Saturday. Watching for that potential of some wintry weather in the mix there as well into early Saturday morning. Then warming up next week. And of course, with this system approaching, we've got the expert opinion here on FOX45.com. We're going to keep this article updated as we get closer to that potential snow with the latest computer model trends. You want to keep it right there locked on FOX45.com.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, who is soon to retire, testified in a lawsuit against the Biden administration's COVID policy last month. A newly released transcript of his deposition is now raising questions about how much the administration worked with big tech to control COVID-related misinformation. The National Desk's Ryan Smith reports.
When Fauci speaks, big tech censors, and that's what this lawsuit's all about.
The attorneys general of Missouri and Louisiana this week released a transcript of their November 23rd deposition of Dr. Anthony Fauci, which stems from the state's May lawsuit, in effort to uncover any potential collusion between Biden administration officials, Fauci, and social media companies. Fauci was asked his opinion on whether people should be allowed to post on social media opinions that are dangerous. He responded that his approach is to, quote, flood the system with the correct information as opposed to interfering with other people's ability to say what they want to say. Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt points out Fauci, who is retiring from his job at the NIH at the end of the year, said 174 times he could not recall specifics during his deposition. Schmidt says another issue that came out of Fauci's testimony was over the Wuhan lab leak theory and COVID's origins.
They immediately went, I think because they knew they were exposed because his agency was funding gain-of-function research in Wuhan, went to discredit that and label anybody that came out with that just weeks later as a conspiracy theorist.
In September, a federal judge in Louisiana ordered the Biden administration to turn over communications between federal officials and social media companies. Full Measure's Cheryl Atkinson sat down with Stanford School of Medicine professor Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, whom she reports helped lead scientists toward a different approach during the pandemic. Instead of shutdowns, isolate the people at risk and allow others to live regular lives. But emails show now former NIH director Dr. Francis Collins wrote to Dr. Fauci about the need for a, quote, quick and devastating published takedown of his ideas.
It just reeks of scientific incompetence. or the manipulation of science in order to get their desired policy ends.
In a statement, Attorney General Landry said Fauci's recent deposition only confirmed what we already knew. Federal bureaucrats in collusion with social media companies want to control not only what you think, but especially what you say. I'm Ryan Smith reporting.
Well, thousands of people still without power after an attack in North Carolina. Ahead on the late edition, why the attack could be raising national security questions. What's in the bag? Why the contents of this backpack, or one of those, have TSA agents scratching their heads and offering a policy reminder. Well, it is that time of year again when packages are delivered to homes just in time for the holidays, but thieves are taking advantage of the opportunity to steal them. Sophia Lesos with our Sinclair sister station in California has tips to protect yourself and your neighbors.
It's the most wonderful time of the year, especially for porch pirates.
It's sad, but during the holiday season, we have people that prey upon the hardworking citizens for their own financial gain at the expense of someone else.
A porch pirate is a thief who takes packages left outside of someone's door by mail carriers. Amazon announced this past Thanksgiving holiday shopping weekend was its biggest ever. Customers around the world purchased hundreds of millions of products between Thanksgiving and Cyber Monday. Porch pirates know that, with Fresno and Visalia ranking 8th in the nation for these types of thefts, according to Safewise.
If you see someone suspicious in your neighborhood that isn't there, doesn't seem to belong there, you should first call the police department before jumping on an app and reporting it that way.
Just like State Farm, this holiday season, you might want to be a good neighbor because the favor might be returned to you.
Get to know your neighbors. You know who is supposed to be in your neighborhood and what vehicles usually belong there. Be a good neighbor, look out for each other, exchange phone numbers, and try to do the neighborly thing and treat other people how you'd like to be treated.
If you see a porch pirate, you should call non-emergency dispatch and let your neighbor know what happened to their package.
We don't recommend people contacting suspected porch pirates. It could be dangerous. You don't know what types of weapons they have on them.
Police say it's helpful to provide video evidence.
We've caught porch pirates in the act, and we have tracked them down later with the help of our community and helpful citizens calling in license plates and descriptions of people.
The biggest thing is this porch pirate season is to be a good neighbor. If you see something, say something.
Reaching out and asking them, if they are expecting a package, letting them know they have a package at their front door can be really helpful.
Well, the Better Business Bureau is warning against scams this holiday season as well. They say some scams appear as gift exchanges. For example, claiming if you buy one gift card, you'll get 10 gift cards. Also, watch out for package delivery scams, too. You'll get an email or a text that looks like it's from UPS or FedEx saying your delivery has been suspended, giving you a link to reach out for help.
You might think that, oh, I need to pay more money because I got a email from the place I bought the gift, but I didn't pay enough in shipping and handling. That's always a red flag.
The BBB says consumers are also getting phone calls, emails, and texts claiming to be from a bank, Amazon, or Netflix, claiming there's a problem with your account. Experts say you shouldn't click any links you are not sure of because it could download malware onto your computer. Well, ahead on the late edition, Comcast customers, listen up. The company is announcing a price hike, how much more your next bill could cost. But first, Marylanders are getting into the holiday spirit. We highlight some of our favorite viewer submissions so far. Well, the holiday season is here. We've been getting some great pictures of your decorations, like this one from Jessica. This is Jaden decorating his own felt Christmas tree. That is the cutest little face. Athena sent in this picture of her Christmas tree. It is huge and all decked out with ornaments, lights, and garland. Just spectacular. Well, we want to see how you're getting ready for the holidays. You can send in your pictures and videos to our website, foxbaltimore.com/chime in, or use our Fox 45 mobile app. Just click the Explore tab, then chime in.
A pilot program to reduce violence expands in Baltimore. Why city leaders say it's been effective so far and where the program goes from here. Pay raises on the table for city employees without voter approval. Fox 45 News questions the ethics behind the law.
And rain and milder for now, but some snow could be in our future by the weekend. I'll let you know what the latest computer model trends are saying coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News Late Edition.
And good evening, I'm Kai Jackson. We're following breaking news out of Baltimore County. Police say a man was shot along Q Court, that's in Owings Mills. We understand he has been taken to the hospital. Fox 45 News has a crew on the scene. We'll continue to follow this story and bring you any updates as they become available. Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott is doubling down on his group violence reduction strategy, also known as GVRS. Now, right now, the strategy is operating in the Western Police District, but the city is expanding efforts into the Southwestern District beginning next year. The mayor's goal is to have the program operating in every part of the city by mid-2024. The Western District has seen a 33% decrease in gun violence from last year. Now, city leaders say they're not celebrating, but it is a sign of progress.
While none of us up here are celebrating that violence is gone in Baltimore, we are talking about a significant step in the right direction of seeing violence be reduced at this level in our most violent district, but also that even as we stand here today, that homicides and shootings, while we are over 300, are down from last year as well, right? So that's the reality.
Well, Monzi Director Shantae Jackson says GVRS will move into the Central Police District after its expansion to the Southwest District. The expansion announcement comes with maps and charts showing why the city says the GVRS plan is working. Fox 45 News is continuing to ask for data surrounding some of the other violence intervention programs like Safe Streets. Pay raises for some city leaders are set to take effect at the start of next year. This is on the heels of Mayor Scott vetoing the city council's plan to reduce pension requirements. Rebecca Pryor has the response right now and concern from Baltimore residents.
Yeah, these pay raises are approved quietly and require no input from voters, causing some to question, do our city leaders truly deserve them? At the start of next year, some of City Hall's top earners scheduled for yet another pay raise. Salary bump sparked by city law that's been on the books since 2007. The law says if at least one city union or employee group receives a pay increase, all elected officials are entitled to a 2.5% raise. Because the union representing salaried city employees got a raise this summer, now salaries across the board will be adjusted. Among those benefiting, the city council president, comptroller, all 14 city council members, and Mayor Brandon Scott. He will now make more than $200,000 a year.
His salary is completely out of whack when you look at the size of the city, you look at the problems in the city. Baltimore City is a city that has a lot of problems, so getting a raise doesn't make any sense.
David Williams with the Taxpayers Protection Alliance is among those taking issue with the widespread raises. He believes a boost in pay should be performance-based, not automatic.
What needs to happen is that they should have to vote on this every year or every time there is a pay increase, so the voters know exactly who's voting for the pay increase and who isn't voting for it. That would provide more transparency and probably fewer pay raises.
However, the mayor is defending the practice, saying the 2.5% increase helps keep up with inflation.
Despite this being a news story every year, it's really not really a news story because everybody in any line of work every year typically gets cost of living increases, and this is basically what this amounts to.
But not all of his constituents agree.
The cost of living goes up, but our pay don't go up. So why should their pay go up and ours don't? And we're the ones that pay them.
Baltimore City residents we spoke with say it's not always commonplace for them to earn annual pay raises. The mayor also ran on a promise to curb crime. a promise that won him votes but has yet to be realized. For the 8th straight year in a row, the city surpassing 300 homicides. And as crime climbs, Baltimore's population continues to fall, leaving some to question, does Mayor Scott deserve more than $200,000 a year?
He needs to, put a little more effort in there to earn, to own up to those earnings.
The city need that $200,000 just for the streets or the schools.
This just underlies the frustration that people have with elected officials because they get automatic pay raises, yet there's no accountability for it.
Now, since 2007, when this law was passed, the mayor's salary has jumped nearly $80,000. Reporting in Baltimore, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
It's been a bit of a gloomy evening commute for many people, and it is expected to be another dreary day tomorrow, but winter weather could be in the future. Let's check in with Chief Meteorologist Jonathan Myers.
Yeah, and guys, we've already got some rain that's around mild temperatures overnight. We've got temperatures probably by morning in the 40s to near 50, which we could take, and that's going to keep things wet, not white, but that could change again as we head towards the weekend. Some newer computer model data just coming in as we're here on the air. Some occasional rain, Towson all the way back down to Baltimore, Elkridge, Severn, Odenton, and up to the state line just north and west of Bel Air. Let's go ahead and take a look a little bit wider out. And there's more rain on and off. That's down to our south and west. Now, we want to keep the rain falling because once it stops, unfortunately, it means with the moisture there could be some fog that develops. And already we've seen some indications of some of that fog building in north and west, those grays and whites. That's near zero visibility up on the Blue Ridge Mountains. Frederick now, we're at about 5-mile visibility, and 5 miles at Westminster. Actually, 5 miles a pretty common number, except for down at Easton. You're at 3 miles right now. But toward morning, we could be down near zero in spots, and we could have some drizzle. And it looks like it's also going to be unsettled through tomorrow morning, and then could get even worse by Friday into Saturday as colder air gets in the mix. I'll let you know when we could see some accumulating snow around here, what the latest computer model data is saying. That's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Well, police are releasing several images surrounding an investigation into gun burglaries. They happened in Montgomery and Anne Arundel counties, spanning 5 locations between November 19th and 28th. If anyone has information, you're asked to call Montgomery County or Anne Arundel County Police or the ATF. Maryland State Police are asking for your help to identify this car they say was involved in a deadly hit-and-run Sunday morning in Prince George's County. Police say that car struck and killed a 23-year-old Columbia man on I-95. It's a black Nissan Altima with New Jersey license plates. The number picture here on the screen. If you think you've seen this car or know this plate, you should contact Maryland State Police's crash team.
Well, the results of a tight Georgia Senate runoff election are in. Democratic incumbent Raphael Warnock will hold on to his seat after a furious challenge from Republican Herschel Walker. Georgia shattered early voting records with more than 1 million people signing up. This is a live look at Warnock's campaign headquarters in Atlanta. He is expected to speak at some point tonight. His win means Democrats will hold a 51-49 majority in the U.S. Senate. Republicans already took back the House. A much quieter mood at Herschel Walker's campaign headquarters, where he just conceded moments ago. He says he'll continue to fight for the people of Georgia despite the loss.
Coming up, a report highlights the pandemic impact on public education, why Maryland students may be falling behind their peers from other states. Results of the nation's report card are in, and they paint a bleak picture for the state of Maryland. The test is taken by hundreds of thousands of 4th and 5th grade students assessing proficiency in reading and math. Now, average student test scores declined by several points in both subjects. Many education experts are now citing the pandemic as the source of the problem. But a majority of Maryland students are proficient in neither reading nor math.
Most states saw decreases, I should point out, as Maryland did, but Maryland's decreases were some of the larger ones in the country.
Regardless, we have a lot of work to do when we look at how our students are faring against other student groups across the country.
The disparity is highlighted in Baltimore. 4th grade students are testing 26 points lower than their peers on large cities in math. Now, 8th graders are testing 21 points lower. Just 42% of Maryland students showed that they were ready for kindergarten this year. Remember that ship, the Everforward, stuck in the bay? Well, the captain of that ship is having his operating license suspended. You might remember the ship was stuck in the Chesapeake Bay for more than a month after it ran aground this past spring. The captain will be offered a chance to formally challenge that decision. Keep in mind, this was the same shipping company that had a sister freighter stuck in the Suez Canal in Egypt in 2021. Comcast subscribers are going to be paying more for cable and internet on their next bill. The company is announcing a nearly 4% hike in prices, impacting both its broadcasting, TV, and regional sports monthly fees. Comcast is also boosting its modem rental fee and cost of a TV remote and box. And the remainder of an archdiocese investigation is expected to happen behind closed doors. Why a conflict of interest with one judge could now be surfacing.
And the morning commute looking to shape up as a cloudy and foggy one with some drizzle. I'll let you know when things are going to get colder around here and potentially whiter around here as well, and how that could impact some weekend plans. My Weather Authority forecast.
Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock is speaking live in Atlanta following his win in the Georgia Senate runoff race. Let's listen in.
With your hands and your feet, your heads and your hearts, you have put in the hard work, and here we are standing together. I want to say thank you. And I want to say thank you to my mother, who is here tonight. You'll see her in a little while. But she grew up in the 1950s in Waycross, Georgia, picking somebody else's cotton and somebody else's tobacco.
Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock, a pastor also from Savannah, Georgia, in Atlanta, saying thank you as he defeats, the Democrat defeats Republican Herschel Walker in a runoff for the Georgia Senate seat. New details tonight in the legal battle over the release of a report into accusations of child sexual abuse within the Archdiocese of Baltimore. Fox 45's Jeff Abel explains why the rest of the investigation will take place in private.
Well, suddenly the tug of war over the release of this long-awaited report into the Catholic Church has grown a whole lot tighter and a whole lot quieter. Outside this country's oldest cathedral 3 weeks ago,
we've been hurt in a way that is very hard to talk about.
Those fighting to expose abuse in the Catholic Church were turning up the volume, demanding that the Attorney General's investigation into predator priest in Baltimore be made public.
It's thousands of children in the Archdiocese of Baltimore have been abused.
It is time for Catholics sitting in church pews, like I once was, to stand up and demand accountability from their leaders.
But now, 3 weeks later, their voices have been silenced. A judge has barred anyone connected to the case to share information about the case, ordering that all proceedings, filings, and communications regarding this matter are to be confidential. He also ordered that any future filings are to be delivered to the judge's chambers and not to the circuit court clerk. Judge Anthony Vittoria, who ordered the restrictions, is, according to his state bio, a member of the Catholic community of South Baltimore since 1997.
The Archdiocese does not and will not oppose the report's release.
The Archdiocese has long insisted it supports the release of the 400-page investigation, but with conditions, insisting it failed to allow some people mentioned in the report a chance to respond, and the Church is now paying the legal fees to provide them that chance.
Now they deserve to be heard by the court, and we will pay their legal fees to ensure that they are heard.
I believe they're looking closer all along at their pocketbook than at the vulnerable, innocent kids.
The court order has made critics even more skeptical and more determined to ensure the public learns the truth about the Church.
Now is the time to hold the Church finally accountable for the pain and suffering that they have caused countless children and adolescents.
Tomorrow, attorneys representing the critics of the Church are expected to be filing a brief with the court demanding that this report be released. And we're told someone will be available to talk about it. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Governor Larry Hogan is banning TikTok and other Chinese or Russian-based products from devices within Maryland's executive branch. The governor says these products create an unnecessary cybersecurity risk, making it easier for spies to access valuable information. Maryland is the fourth state to ban TikTok within the executive branch. The Pentagon has banned similar apps from military devices.
All right, here we go, tracking the latest weather maker and the next weather maker that could be something more than rain as we head into the weekend. And I say could because there's still a few days here where we have to work on this. But for now, we do have some light rain and drizzle on the way from Bel Air and the Susquehanna River, east side of Baltimore down to Essex. That's where the drizzle is most persistent, down to Laurel and Severn on the western side of the Chesapeake Bay. And then down towards the lower Delmarva, there's some bigger rains going on, but most of those will be missing us overnight. I think we'll just be kind of jammed in with drizzle and some fog. And then there's more that's out to the west. And potentially by the end of the week, we could get into some more of that. And actually, maybe tomorrow morning, there could be another round of showers before things quiet down. Now, you actually kind of want rain overnight because we got a lot of moisture that is now pooled up. And visibilities are about 3 to 5, maybe 6 miles. But where you start seeing the drizzle take over more so and you get into the higher elevations, that's where you get the gray. And that's where some of those visibilities are dropping 2 or below 1 mile. And I think that some of us, especially north and west of Baltimore, could get some near zero visibilities tomorrow morning. I guess the good news about all this, although you'll have to pack your patience for the morning commute, it will be warmer than what we've been waking up to. Temperatures running about 15 to 25 degrees warmer than the same time yesterday evening when we were well down into the 30s. Not the case today. Some light rain here and there after high temperatures in the mid to upper 40s this afternoon, and that's kind of where we stay perched right now as that warmer air continues to flood in. Notice there's a batch of rain that's out to our west, and that rain is going to sift on through tomorrow morning. By tomorrow midday, I think we're kind of reduced primarily to clouds, and then we watch that next weather maker after a dry day on Thursday, and actually it should be pretty pleasant. We watch the warmer air, at least first, come in for Thursday and also for tomorrow. And then the weather maker that could be associated with some colder air mixing in as we head, unfortunately, into the end of the week, if you don't want the potential of the white stuff around here. So computer models are still kind of duking it out here, and they kind of give and take, if you will, as we go from run to run. The GFS, or the American computer model, it was coming in with all rain last night for the Friday night time frame. Now you see the blue, that's some snow. So it'd be mainly wet, but especially as you get north and west of the Beltway, some snow mixing in, and then maybe even some accumulation, at least light stuff, maybe a coating up towards the state line. And now it looks like the European computer model still persisting with snow chances here as we work into Friday night, early Saturday morning, but kind of slackening off on the intensity, maybe an inch or two across the area at worst. So again, it doesn't look like a huge snow producer, but it could be the first accumulating snow of the season potentially for some of us as we head into Friday night and Saturday morning early. Thankfully, it won't be during morning commuting, so that's a good news. But nonetheless, we'll be tracking it overnight tonight into early tomorrow morning. Some light rain and drizzle, occasional rain here and there through about midday tomorrow. And then look at those mild temperatures getting up close to 60 degrees tomorrow afternoon. 46, occasional rain going to drizzle and some fog overnight. Watch for reduced visibilities tomorrow morning. Then it's kind of drying gradually during the afternoon as we go to 60. Sun glimpses on Thursday. Then the day to watch again Friday night, especially into Saturday morning. Really depends on those temperature profiles here. And then it does get milder into early next week. And we've got the expert opinion here, as we always do on the FOX44.com website. We're going to be all over social media on this as well. We got a brand new weather article breaking down all those model possibilities and potentials. If you want a little more on the story here, again, just go to FOX44.com for that new article just wrote there.
An attack on substations in North Carolina, leaving thousands without power. I'm Atrell Nashar with what it says about the vulnerability of the nation's critical infrastructure.
Utility workers are scrambling to restore power to a North Carolina community after gunfire apparently caused outages for tens of thousands of people. Atra El-Nashar explains why that outage may be highlighting a larger problem about the national power grid.
Since Saturday night, residents in Moore County, North Carolina, have been living in the dark. So many unanswered questions about who shot two substations and why. What authorities say is clear is that the attack was not random.
This was a specific act. The person or persons knew what they were doing and what it took to disable this substation.
Governor Roy Cooper says the attack raises a new level of threat. The FBI working with state and local officials on the investigation, while most of the roughly 35,000 people without power as of Tuesday likely won't have it restored until Thursday. One possibility, the attack could be linked to threats of violence from far-right activists targeting a drag performance in Moore County scheduled for 7 p.m. Saturday, the same time the substations were shot. As of Tuesday, authorities have not confirmed a link, but at least one mayor describes it this way.
It is just a horrible, horrible terrorist, in my opinion, act.
The threat of terrorist attacks on critical infrastructure was detailed in a Department of Homeland Security memo just last week, motivated by a range of ideological beliefs and/or personal grievances.
It's not a surprise that people have started figuring out that the power infrastructure is just immediately out in the open.
Engineering professor Dr. Kyrie Baker says most power infrastructure was built above ground for efficiency and accessibility. But given emerging threats of terrorism and climate change, she says resiliency needs to be prioritized.
But it's not cheap and it's not easy. It's going to basically require a overhaul of a lot of the different parts of the grid.
She says what happened in North Carolina can serve as a warning for communities to think about grid resiliency and plans for community shelters and backup generators, currently a lifeline for thousands in North Carolina. In Washington, I'm Atra El-Nashar reporting.
Raven safety Chuck Clark racked up tackles this weekend against the Broncos, but many say his most significant accomplishment is coming from his work off the field. Maryland's men's basketball team is putting its undefeated record on the line tonight, going on for the road for the first time in the Big Ten. And the Terps are undefeated no more, sadly. Despite 17 points from Jameer Young, 14 turnovers, well, that doomed the Terps. They fall by a score of 64-59, moving to 8-1 on the year. Still a good record. Up next, Tennessee on Sunday in Brooklyn. Well, safety Chuck Clark makes a big impact on the field for the Ravens, but it's his community outreach that's making headlines today. Clark is a finalist for the NFL's Walter Payton Man of the Year Award, given each year to the player who exemplifies service and character. Every NFL team selects one nominee. Clark is a regular volunteer with Special Olympics Maryland and helps out with the team's Holiday Helpers event at Christmas time. Now, the winner will get $250,000 for a charity of their choice. All other nominees will receive $40,000 that they can donate. Well, that's all for us on the late edition. I'm Kai Jackson. Thank you for watching. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.